Today on Steampunk Minecraft, the Golden Apple Factory. In this video, we're going to be using our gold for a greater cause. And what better cause is there than by combining one of Earth's elements with an apple and labeling it as safe for human consumption. This is episode 14 of Steampunk Minecraft. You want to play mod packs with friends, but you can't seem to find a good server. And the free ones? With the big mod packs these days, free servers are just too laggy. Luckily for you, there's BISECT hosting. They host my server, and with plenty of affordable options, they can host your server too. And the best part is, they support almost every mod pack. Use code Doublesal at checkout for 25% off your first order. BISECT hosting, a great site for great servers. Okay, I've put this off for long enough. As you may recall, for the last couple of episodes, we've been building this luxury district, a place where we can make gold and other fine goods. We started with a gold factory, which was an absolute marvel. We're just making gold out of thin air. I also created the vault at the end of the road of this luxury district, and inside of the vault, a place for us to store our wealth. Yes, this place is really coming together. There's only one problem. You see, one of the buildings is off by 2 blocks. And that's a huge problem because it makes this path uneven, and I am a sucker for symmetry. So, it's time to address this problem, and many of you have been suggesting that I can simply push the building with a piston. So, we're gonna give that a try. But before we get started, special thanks to SolarBeast1415 for today's video idea. Let's go. Now, pushing a building with a piston sounds easy, but there is some prep work I have to get out of the way. For example, I have to mine out all of these blocks so that the building has room to shift when the piston pushes it forward. After that, it was time for the grueling task of gluing everything together. I made a nice little cobblestone column so that I could start at one corner and end up gluing at the other corner. But unfortunately, there was one thing I didn't know about glue. It can only cover so many blocks because there is a maximum limit. Seeing as to how the selected area was way too big, I was gonna have to glue the building in sections if I wanted to cover the whole thing. Now, the next mistake I made was thinking that a regular piston could get the job done, but that wasn't the case. I was gonna need a mechanical piston, a special block exclusive to the Create mod. Now, the mechanical piston did require some prep work, so I set up a water wheel, got some water from the river, and got this thing up and running. The only problem was that, well, there was a block in the way. I don't know if this was a block I forgot to glue, but I had to break it if I wanted this to work. So, I went through the maze of machines to find the one block, and I don't know if this was the exact one, but I broke it, and it should have worked. Except, there was another problem. The piston could only push a maximum of 2,048 blocks. I had glued too many blocks together. So, at the time, the only solution I could think of was actually going underneath the building and breaking all of the stone that I had glued. I was hoping that I would break enough blocks to get under the 2,048 limit. Many blocks later, I had carved a nice empty space underneath the factory. And look at that, the building moved. It wasn't perfect, and some parts of the building weren't moving with the whole structure, but I was able to figure out the rest of the details. And now that the building was moved, all I had to do was fill in the gaps where the building once stood, making the path perfectly symmetrical. All according to plan, of course. And there it is. The luxury district was finally as it should be. Now, it was finally time for the fun part, the moment you've all been waiting for. It was time to make our golden apples, and with the help of the second gold factory and all of its gold nuggets, that was going to be possible. But before we could get started, there were some tasks I had to get out of the way, like making a basin. The reason I needed a basin, as well as a mechanical press, was because I wanted to automate the conversion of gold nuggets into gold ingots, and this is how I was gonna do it. There was a chest right there where I was storing my nuggets, and yes, I could put the nuggets in a crafting table and make the ingots manually, but that takes too long. So instead, I attached them with funnels next to the conveyor belt with that basin there, and the idea was that the nuggets would come out of the chest, go into the basin, and be pressed together into ingots with the press. And there you see the nuggets that are coming out, and the press is activated, and once there's 9, it goes down, and boom! We have our automated gold ingot system. The next task involved getting apples, and where do you get apples? Well, from the mighty oak tree, of course. We needed a place to mass produce these oak trees, so I began carving another hole into the mountainside, and at this point I was starting to regret building by a mountain because it involves a lot of terraforming when you want to build. But anyways, the idea was that I needed a flat plane to build the foundation of this next building, this oak tree farm. Now, we had wood farms in the past, but this was the first time where we were actually harvesting trees, not for the wood, but instead for the apples. So we were going to need a tall building, and it was going to be based off of a greenhouse. At least that was what I was thinking. I built this auto harvester. You guys have seen this design multiple times now. It's very useful. I attached the deployers because the deployers are the ones that replant the saplings. See, there I'm setting the filter with the acorns. And after that, I had to attach the saws to the lower level so that they could chop the trees down. Okay, the harvester is finally complete. Now, the only thing left to do is bring it all together with the cart assembler, and the cart assembler is kind of tricky to use. Sometimes it glitches. Speaking of glitches, my game started breaking on me. I was breaking blocks and they weren't appearing. I wasn't able to pick them up, so I had to leave, disconnect, join back, and give it another try. There was my cart assembler, and now it was the moment of truth. Was this going to work? Well, I hope it would because I built these multiple times, and would you know it, look at that. It glitched. It assembled on the other side for some reason. I don't even know how that happened. And the worst part was that when the machine started coming back towards me, well, take a look at this. It started breaking my building. Good thing I didn't finish building those columns. Anyways, I had to fix that, and once they were finally in the right position, they were running back and forth as they should have. Now, it was time to move on to the next step. Planting the trees. I began putting acorns in each deployer's hand. To be honest, I didn't have that many acorns, but we could start with a few. After that, I made a little belt system with chests and funnels where I would sort all the items that came from the oak trees: wood, acorn, apple, sticks. Now it was simply a matter of planting the trees and letting the machine harvest everything. I had to give it a push, and off it went, beautifully running as it should. Once again, we relied on our trusty acacia block to make up the foundation of the build. I used sandstone for the roof, and the main reason I use sandstone is because I think it just looks so clean compared to the other blocks. It's just got a nice smooth texture. Anyways, I started adding details to the lower level, and I was thinking about filling this area with water, but I'm not sure on that yet. Let me know in the comments what you think I should fill in this area down here. I was also thinking about adding lava or fire, but then it just occurred to me that the upper part of this building is made out of wood, and as we know, wood and fire don't mix. Anyways, I was finally working on the roof, adding these columns with these pipes and the sandstone walls, and of course, we have to use our classic warped log roof design. I think this is just a pretty cool color palette. I don't know why, but I've stuck with it, and I'm gonna continue sticking with it. But you know what, like I said before, I am open to suggestion. Leave a comment down below if you think I should do something else. But the interior was finally done, and this is what it looks like. The machine was running, and the windows and the roof, it just all came together real nice. Look at the sun shining through the windows there. It was doing a good job. A little too good. The machine was harvesting at full force, and there was a point where all the logs were overfilling the chest. So I had to make a disposal system with lava. This is what the outside looks like. I don't know what I based it off of, but I think it looks pretty. And there was also an alley in between the gold factory and the apple factory, so I was gonna have to link the two somehow between this tiny gap. Anyways, the sorting system was working like a charm. Apples were going into the filter, and they were being collected there for future use. Now the next problem I had to tackle was how was I gonna combine the gold with the apples? Well, one problem at a time. First, we were going to have to address something at our gold factory, that being this. You see, the gold had to be transported, so it was time to make an assembly line that would take the gold from point A to point B. I dug underneath the factory, and the next step was to build a platform. See that huge gap there that we dug earlier? There was plenty of space for this platform, also plenty of space for the belt. Using wood slabs, I quickly threw something together. This wasn't going to be fancy because it was underground, and if it's out of sight and out of mind, then I don't worry about putting too many details as long as it gets the job done. Anyways, I began tunneling under the apple farm, apple factory, whatever you want to call it. The apples were being made there. Once I was inside, I went back underground and began making a larger path. That way there was more room to walk and I could build easier. Next, I began building the contraption that would combine the gold and the apples together. A basin and a mixer and 2 funnels on each side for each item to enter through. The builds were going to be complicated, but it didn't matter because the job was going to be completed. So I set that up and it was looking pretty good. I even had a chest there that was going to be connected to some chutes where the apples would be blown in from the bottom. So that was the idea. I put the cog and got the mixer started. And after that, well, it was simply time to attach the chest, and the system was, I'd say, about 95% complete. But the big question was it gonna run? So I gathered some gold, and I also grabbed some apples because I wanted to see if this was gonna work, and good thing I gave it a try before turning everything on, because look at that, it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work until I looked at the crafting recipe, and to my surprise, mixers were not able to combine gold and apples. It had to be a mechanical crafter. So everything I just did right now, absolutely useless. I demolished the whole thing and I had to go back to the drawing board, this time with a design that was going to incorporate a mechanical crafter. And yes, I had to take my time, I had to think it over, but I was able to get it done. So I went back, and this is what I ended up with. A nice, simple, clean interface with an apple in the middle. You're probably wondering how it works. Well, let me show you. Okay, here we are back at the gold factory. The gold is being compounded into ingots. I set the gold filter so that only ingots come out, and all I have to do is let the gold out. The gold goes onto the conveyor belt where it travels to the apple farm. After that, the mechanical fan blows the gold upwards. Meanwhile, the apples are being stored in a hopper. The hopper transports them into the mechanical crafter, where the apple is then met with the gold, where they are then combined into golden apples. Well, there you have it, friends, the Golden Apple Factory. I'm going to be taking future suggestions from the comments section, so be sure to comment what you want me to build next so I don't run out of ideas. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. If you want this build, be sure to support me on Patreon, where the schematics will be linked there for download. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I will see you next time. This has been Doublesal. Thanks for watching.